Hey, welcome to the Medmix Webcast. This is Ramana Annamaraju. I'm the host. This is a really dear to my tonight program is very dear to me. I most of my adult life I spent in Atlanta. Atlanta is a big music scene. You must be wondering why I'm playing Jackson 5 song. I tell you why. Jackson 5, that is produced by a legendary producer, Barry Gordy. He's a junior. He's a very genius in the sense. I tell you why. He was working for the Ford Motor Company he was an assembly line. He's working on assembly line. He got this idea of organizational structure, assembly line, step by step, all the process. So he started a company. It's called Hit Factory. He came up with the idea of Hit Factory, doing the implementation of the process there. So brilliant. He has to be genius. I used to hang around with all these celebrities in Atlanta. I tell you, they're all smart. They know one thing. When I started it is really, when I see Dominic Wilkins, he's a good friend of mine. When I was on a camera, he was so easy. He spoke. He's not a genius on the planet, but he spoke very easily on the camera. I was, the Dominic Wilkins was so comfortable on camera. When I went to the camera, I used to freeze. Then I found out what is the reasons are, and as a scientist, and I need to find out. It is in the savannas of Africa, where we came from, all the civilization came from Africa. We don't have mirrors. We only can recognize the animals that they can eat us or the enemies of other people. So our brain is adapted to process other people and other things, not us. So this is the evolutionary, biological evolution there. So when you see your picture, your photo, you on camera, it rattles you. That's a strange, because it is a biological reason. Psychological reasoning, then on the top of it, you have anxiety disorder that multiplies. And now they're finding out there could be a genetic reason. You have a prefrontal cortex, there is a genes may be missing, or your dopamine levels, they're changing, receptors, serotonin receptors could be playing a different role. So it is all combined together. When you are in camera, don't feel bad. A lot of people think, oh, I am bad in camera. This is just our human tendency to be afraid of. So I met this wonderful woman in one of the functions here. Her name is Juliet Gordy. The reason I played that song is she's the granddaughter of Barry Gordy. He's a legendary producer. He's still alive. He's 95 or something. We'll ask her. So she's the granddaughter, and she started a startup. Cyvora is called. So what she did was, she was putting these AI-based app that can train you and get user for it. When I had two kids, my son when he was a baby, we used to go to church, and then I'm a Hindu, but I used to go along with him. Then, one thing I realized at the time, we need to put him in the front of people so he doesn't have the shyness. So at the age of 4, he used to go in church and talking in the front of people. So that's why now he doesn't have that shyness. So that is a very important. All Indians, we have this by default. We have too much shy people, and Asians and all these cultures. So it is really tough to be on the camera. But it is a training. Juliet Gordy found a company that can help you train yourself without watching other people watching you. Let me bring her. There's a Juliet Gordy on the scene. Well, Juliet, beautiful Juliet up here.
Hi.
Tell you a little bit about your grandfather, what a legend he is.
Yeah.
You're the blessed to have a great genes. Tell us a little bit about him, How is he doing actually health-wise?
He's doing very well. He's here in Los Angeles, California. He is 95. You are correct. And yeah, he's in great spirits. He's my last grandparent living.
That is amazing. So, how did you get this idea? You're in Beverly Hills. You're joining from Beverly Hills. So, what is inspired you to start this? What is the story behind this to start this company, Cyvora?
Yeah, so I started acting at about age 9. I did various commercials, I did a Netflix TV show, and I actually even trained classically at Lambda. It's called the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts. If you've ever heard of Benedict Cumberbatch or Brian Cox, they went there. And really, having spent the vast majority of life in the entertainment industry, I experienced firsthand the challenges that came with the pandemic, especially the shift of where actors stopped going into studios and into spaces to be able to actually do their auditions in person and then had to shift and do them at home. And so this shift really made me realize that there was a need for a tool that could help actors navigate this process more smoothly. So I started just envisioning a platform that would address this pain point, not only for myself, but for the entirety of my creative community. And as we were thinking through the ideal features, our cybersecurity officer, Ralph Echemendia, came to me and he said, these tools benefit everyone. So, we all perform, whether it's an audience of 1 or 1,000, whether it's a job interview or a public speech or a podcast, we all have to speak clearly and communicate effectively and empathetically. And so really this realization is what made us broaden our mission into creating an AI powered tool that is helping anyone communicate with confidence, clarity, and authenticity.
Absolutely. That is, you do that very well. So you're trained, you came from a very well-known family. So that you probably had a lot of exposure. People like me, we are scientific nerds, we are science nerds. But science communication is important. Health communication, as you said, that during the pandemic, we need to communicate, right? That's important to communicate this. So a lot of doctors, some of them did that, but that's a big challenge for them. Even I know some of the doctors, they deal with the public, but when they come on camera, they just freeze. So it
Yeah.
is a biggest challenge for a lot of people. It is a blessing. Actually, what you're doing is really needed, is a needed service in this industry. But let me ask you why, the training, or what is not only your preparation training, just this little podcast, it's a lot of training, it requires such a coordination. I get overwhelmed sometimes. Tell us a little bit about that. What are the things that go into the communication and putting on the camera yourself? What are the things go for that inside to present to people?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I saw a quote by this sports psychologist, and he's also a well known author named Steve Magnus. It's a quote where he said, it doesn't matter if you are an athlete performing in front of thousands of people, or even if you're a school teacher that's giving a presentation. Our biology on a science level is working exactly the same. So the situation of the environment might feel different, but our bodies are all responding the same way. So I think that one of the most important but overlooked factors is the habit of self-reflection, especially through practice. I think that means, intentionally watching yourself back on camera or listening to your own voice, not necessarily to critique or to judge yourself, but to observe really with curiosity and with compassion. One tip that I always give people is that, you can start with something that you've written yourself, or you can start, with a Dr. Seuss book and do it on camera. See how you react, see what your body does, see what your facial expressions are like. And instead of when you're watching it back saying, oh, I look really odd, or, I look a little bit fat, or what am I doing with my hands? I look really awkward, reframing the labels that you give to yourself. And instead of saying that it's awkward, just recognizing that as a moment of humanness.
Oh, beautiful! A self-reflection. That is a good training. That's what I did. I just watching myself, and I hated it. But you have to go through that training period. One of the things that in Atlanta, one thing I learned in Atlanta area is a lot of music scene is there, and my son was that churches black churches were very instrumental in communicating this fear of presenting yourself. Tell us that culture of that religious. My I'm going to bring my son. Actually, he can tell you more. And then what? Tell me a little bit about that background. So people interacting with the meetings and the churches and temples is talking is a very important. It helps the people to communicate better.
Yeah, of course. So I think that in terms of if you are giving a public speech, whether it is in church or if it's online or if it's in front of a boardroom of people, one really important tip I think is we are very uncomfortable with listening to our own voices, and there's actually a psychological reason for this. It is because that when you do speak, you're actually hearing yourself, both the air and the bone conduction. But then when it's in a recording, you're only hearing the air conduction. So that's why your voice actually sounds unfamiliar to you and why it's uncomfortable to you.
Yes.
But that is something that I think is really important to get uncomfortable and start, being uncomfortable with that uncomfortability of hearing your own voice. And I think that in turn will then, when you are on stage presenting, allow you to be self-reflective within the moment. That then allows you to, when you already know your speech and you're up on that church stage or doing your public speech, you can then start to regulate your voice and either change it so then it then becomes more interesting in its storytelling, or you can then adjust it a little bit so that you actually like the sound of your voice a little bit more. And I think that that's really where that self-reflection comes in, not only practicing at home, but actually when you're on stage doing it. So then you can start to make those shifts in the moment.
Particularly people with my accents, we need to practice more and listen to that, because I went through a lot of these. I interview a lot of American doctors. It is a challenge, So I was listening first time when I listened to my own voice, it is like a mumbled up together. Even I couldn't understand. It's that bad. So that's one thing I learned it. So you have to keep on practicing these things.
Yeah.
Let me introduce you. My son is joining from Atlanta, Georgia. He's a musician. He's a neuroscientist.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's great to meet you, Juliet. Thank you for, joining the podcast to, have this discussion with us today. I mean, I think that us obvious, with stating the obvious, the Gordy name goes very far in the music business. I mean, just in entertainment in general, but we know the history of that name and it's amazing and it's really good. It's really awesome to see you continue the Gordy legacy with the way that you want to impact the entertainment business, especially with implementing technology. So
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, it's what Sivora is working on is something that I myself have noticed and have really thought about as well, from like the neuroscience perspective of why do people feel fear of presenting? That's the whole basis of why Toastmasters exists, why there's a lot of programs that literally teach people public speaking and, even those mnemonic devices, like, imagine your audience without in
Yeah.
their underwear. If you get, feel fear, like the fact that human beings have to have these mechanisms and systems in place to just speak to other people really, really says a lot about human psychology.
Yeah.
So I definitely think you're, hitting a really strong pain point there.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate that. Our advisor says that we're like Toastmasters on steroids.
That's
amazing.
that's a great way of just saying that. I'm going to present a topic on entertainment, education, entertainment and technology person who is that from the past. And then I'm going to connect to the present, a mystery guest I'm going to bring from a Google. That's going to be interesting. She is the neck of my woods from back home. So I think I'm going to bring her to the. So what I'm going to bring her first, and actually then I will introduce her. In fact, the later on. Her name is Shobana Radhakrishnan. Okay, I'm going to present a topic of Hollywood enigma as one of the mysterious women from 1940s. She is a bombshell. 1940s, her movies are bombshell. I tell you why. The name is, she is, Hedy Yvonne Kessler. Her name is the long name. She's from Austria. Is born in Vienna, Austria, in 1914. You know, so what she did was, she's a beautiful woman, just like Juliet and that Shobana. So what this woman came, so first wealthy Jewish family she came from, but she loved science. She wanted to study science. She wanted to, but at the time, during those times, still not favor for women to go to the science education. So she took the private classes. She's an excellent piano player. She did that, all those things. After that, what she did was, she acted in one of the notorious movies in the 1933. She acted nude in one of the movies. It became a big sensation in the world. Everybody said that, the world is falling apart, and everything, all religious people were upset and all those things. But she then, one of the guys who came across her pictures and photos and her movie. Her name is the MGM Grand chairman, Louis Mayer. He brought her to the Beverly Hills where Juliet is right now. So that he brought her to the Hollywood, and they changed her name to Hedy Lamarr. That took the Jewish name and put the Hedy Lamarr name. She did that. That is Hedy Lamarr. So she was, after that, she was acted in but she's a femme fatale, fatale, what do you say? Femme fatale. She was in all movies, sex bomb. She has a string of movies she did in 1940s. Okay. So that is her. But she has a different, she's actually like a Juliet Gordy, startup before startup she is. She was she invented a Coca-Cola tablet. She wanted to give it to the military people, so they when they are in the field, they can put this tablet in the water and it becomes Coca-Cola. She's a brilliant idea she came up with, but she didn't like the taste, and the project was eventually abandoned. But she tried it. Then she invented actually fluorescent dog colors. People don't know this. She did the. She's a startup before startups. You heard about. She is a truly remarkable woman in that sense. So she is another just a pretty woman from Hollywood. She did, and then she was dating a lot of people. A little bit of a outgoing woman, and so a lot of boyfriends. A lot of marriage. 6 times she got married. So she's a very outgoing woman. But her love for science is unbelievable. So she was dating Howard Hughes, a aviation pioneer. She was dating him. So he wanted to build a aeroplane that goes fastest aeroplane in the planet. That's what he wanted to do against Germans. Germans are already trying to do the invade Austria. So what he did was, she came up with a brilliant idea. She said that, why don't you take the fastest fish and fastest bird, see there how they do it, and replicate the technology. That's what he did. In fact, he said that, you're a genius. So he called her, you're a genius. That is what she acknowledged it. She is a very simple way. She found out that scales that on the fish can decrease the drag, and the lifting up is on the bird's lift, is that in the bird wings, or the lift is extremely good. So they adopted in the aeroplane technology, actually amazing. So she is really love the science. So during the time Germany invaded Austria, beginning of World War II, she hated it. She was a Jewish woman. She was a prosecuted. People they went to Austria. There is a lot of camps, right? So Jewish camps that they put together outside of the outskirts. So that what she did was, she wanted to stop this guy Hitler. So she came up with an excellent idea of secret. She's the mother of secret communications. How do you communicate electronically from one to other? So she knows. She used to play piano. She's a piano player. She was player piano. Player piano is a plays itself, right? Is automatically plays without any things. So she took that concept, and she was dating another guy, George Antal is another guy. He actually conducted a robotic orchestra in 1940s. He conducted a robotic orchestra with the 16 instruments. They play automatically themselves. She took this brilliant idea and came up with the engineering thing diagrams, and then she filed a patent of secret communications frequency hopping. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, not too much detail, but I'll tell you what the frequency hopping is. If we have a data packet, so what she did was the first one to do the secret communication, cryptography, that's what she did. She took the data packet and then moved that, at the time, waves, carrier signal and all those things. I don't need to go. But I'm going to tell you the essence of the invention. So she moves this data packet into the as the time progresses, she moves to the different frequency. F6, F1 to F6, F6 to F7, then F1 again, F5, F6. She's moving the data into the different frequencies. Then the people, that's only people they know in that frequency they can listen is other people who have that sequence. So she established a secret communication data packet jumping from frequency from this kind of things. So this is an excellent. Really, she went to the military generals, but this is what she said, that if one of the things was she was interested in doing this one because that the torpedoes that Americans are using, they're using a guided missile, which is a radio communication they're using. That trying to use. She says that if the Germans can interrupt that radio communication, turn the torpedo around and it may hit your ship itself. So she said that we need to send a communication that is secret. That is called a frequency hopping spectrum, spread spectrum. So different frequencies she was using through the frequency synthesizer. You create a frequency synthesizer. You can use it. The receiver has a frequency synthesizer. The sender has a frequency synthesizer. You can send a secret communication. That's why nobody can get that anything. She's a genius in that area. So that's why she can avoid all the communication that the guided missiles, with the radio communication torpedoes, the Germans cannot interrupt anymore. So that is what she did but unfortunately, military generals at that time, 1940s, they don't want to listen to women. Forget about foreign women. It's the least amount. So they ignored her completely. But they copied her invention. They didn't tell her. They copied in the Cuban Missile Crisis. They played the frequency hopping. That U.S. Navy sonar detection, they use a different to find out the objects in under the sea. Still, we use sonar detection, frequency hopping, air invention. So that is where she found a Cuban Missile Crisis. They used it without telling her. So in year 2000, so on the United States government Federal Communication Channel Commission, they under 2.4 gigahertz is open. There is no more. You don't need any more licensing process. The that opened up Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So Shobana can tell a little bit. I will ask you about Shobana about that kind of things. She's a master of all those things. But in medicine, frequency spectrum, frequency hopping spectrum, FHSS they call. In medicine is quite a bit. Wireless medical devices. We have pacemakers, infusion pacemakers. Suppose if we have a president wearing a pacemaker, if somebody, the foreign agent can communicate, you can interrupt that in the communication and can do the bad things. So that is why. So that this frequency hopping spectrum is extremely useful. This kind of a frequency hopping secret communication. Now, physician-patient communication, that is also important. Medical sensor, remote patient monitoring. If you are monitoring blood pressure, temperature, and the oxygen saturation, all of them, you can frequency hopping spectrum will do that actually, so that nobody else knows what's going on there. Bluetooth is actually, we are using Bluetooth in everywhere now. All the medical device technologies and diagnosis, it is everywhere. So that is she is an 85 years old, and she died in 2000, and she lived a long life and a very remarkable, but without a fanfare. She died in a very quiet small house in Orlando, Florida. And they produced a movie, and HBO produced a movie called Bombshell, in fact. So, so she was, tell you, the valuation for her invention is counted as $30 billion. Okay, that came out $30 billion. She didn't receive any money, zero. Okay, so but she got accolades from the Pioneer Award from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. That's very good. And then Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering is like a nerdy kind of group, engineers group. I will ask Shobana. Shobana can tell you. They honored her. She's advancing the technology for humanity. The acknowledged her, all the nerdy people. think about that. She was inducted in the National Inventor Hall of Fame. So it's a remarkable woman. Anybody can do that. Tell you we cannot ignore. So this Hedy Lamar Award was Digital Entertainment Group was announced recently. Shobana Radhakrishnan, and then from Google, she's the director. I'm going to bring her now, and then Shantali Shubhan Badia, I think she's a student in University of Michigan. She is also a music producer like my son. So they were awarded this Hedy Lamar Award is actually going to be instituted in the month of November. Let me bring Shobana Radhakrishnan to the table. She is Shobana. So thank you for watching. She's a genius woman. That the beauty, the love of science is we need to really hats off to this kind of a woman. So okay, Shobana, tell us a little bit about you, and I'm going to tell me what is how did you get this award?
First of all, I'm very honored on having been invited on your show and being mentioned in the same sentence as Juliet and Hedy Lamar. So thank you for doing both of these. As I was listening to, before I answer your question, as I was listening to Juliet talking about her vision, especially the Toastmasters on steroids, that definitely struck a chord with me. This is one of those things where, if you ask a question, what would you tell your younger self? I would now say go learn from Juliet Gordy. So this is something that all of us work through in our careers, especially public speaking when you're physically on a stage. And I think thank you, Juliet, for doing so much to help the next generation of professionals and performers feel a lot more comfortable. Because as you all said multiple times, watching yourself on video is what my teenager daughter would say cringy. So we don't like watching ourselves on video and then trying to be a critique for yourself and then iterating. That's usually asking too much of everyone, but you're bringing the next generation of great public speakers. So first of all, thank you for that. It struck a chord, your cause.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words. I appreciate that.
So the award was a surprise to you, Dr. Shobana. What was the reason that you got that award? You're an engineer. You're Google. You work for Google. You're a director of engineering, right? So you're in the electronic side. Where did you get the entertainment part for you?
That's right. I actually am responsible for technology and but as well as R&D for Google TV, which is our product for the TV and entertainment space. If you want to put it in two sentences, if you take Google's search and recommendation algorithms, which are world renowned, and if you think about how to solve for, I'll call it the Friday evening problem, right? Most of us have this experience. You come home after a long work week or school week. All you want to do is kick your feet up on your couch and watch something to relax. And we end up spending 15, 20, even more minutes just finding something to watch. So you're scrolling up and down, hopping into apps, scrolling again, hopping into your next app, and then you still don't find something great to watch and you're frustrated. And some days you're like, forget it, let's just go out for dinner. There's nothing great to watch, right? And this is something that resonated for me as a user. So when we looked at it from the TV space, we said, doesn't Google have the best search algorithms? What if we could bring some of that intelligence to remove this pain point for content recommendations? And that's what Google TV set out to solve. Back in 2018, when I joined Google 7 years ago, when this idea was just on paper, And we worked for a couple of years with Google-wide engineering and research groups, done a bunch of testing, fine-tuning, and it was launched in fall of 2020. So when you turn the TV on, instead of seeing a bunch of apps, you would see the content is best matched to you. And we're happy to share that it has turned out to be a big hit with our users, and it enjoys a CSAT of 4.x, which is very high in the entertainment industry, for several years. So since then, and so it looks like our guess was kind of right on the hypothesis. And this did involve a lot of learning how Google score algorithms work, how do you bring it to TV, what do TV users want? Because it's all about, do you delight the users versus give them technology, right? So it's about matching what the users need with technology. And I think that's really what helped us nail this problem. And prior to that, to answer your question of how I came to entertainment, I spent a few years at Roku and at Netflix before that. So I think it's been probably almost 15 years in this space for me. And I always used to watch TV as a child too. So I think it's been my calling from childhood. And so sometimes my kids say, you watch TV for a living. So I'm glad to have that.
Yeah, that's a great job to have. Yeah. So, Shobana, yeah, that's congratulations on your excellent award for the Hedy Lamar Award. That is a really fantastic award, to. So, how did you? Let me ask you a question on the. How did you get over your fear of camera? The watching TV, and how did you now? That you came from a very nerdy background, like IEEE. You're from South India, like me. You're from the. So we are generally shy people. How did you pass that stage? To.
No, that's exactly right. And in addition to the typical shy of South Indian people, I had never actually stayed by myself, even in like my relatives or extended families' home without my parents, until I moved all the way out of the home to come here. So there was a lot of overcoming barriers beyond the 20 plus hour ride to get to a completely different country. So I think for me, I would say both luck and either bravery or foolishness, depending on how you want to take it. Because starting with my dad, who my dad was an engineer too, and he thought he could fix and build anything. So his training was in mechanical engineering, but he didn't hesitate to pull up the back of a TV and try to fix it if something was wrong. He had no electronics even classes, right? So he just felt, I got to be able to figure out how this works so I can fix anything that's wrong. So whether if it was a scooter or a car that broke down at home, he would fix it. He never took it to a body shop, or that was his instinct. And oftentimes as a preteen or as a child, I would be a helper to bring him tools, from somewhere at home to help him out. So I feel like that was my first exposure to trying things you don't know and being wrong is okay, I think. And that kind of continued. The first time I did public speaking actually was in a speech contest when I was 12. I don't know what came over me. I just signed up for it. I went on the stage, and for 2 minutes, I was, the brain is working, the memory is good, and I'm delivering. But then your adrenaline catches up, and I literally froze on the stage in front of hundreds of students, because you know how there's a rush, your blood is rushing to your head, and I literally paused, uncomfortable pause, and a teacher actually had to prompt me, do you want to use your paper and read through quietly? And that's actually what I did the rest of the speech. And needless to say, I did not win any prizes at that contest. But fast forward several decades, that gave me a from trying again. But it also made me feel like being embarrassed in front of a crowd was actually okay. And although I didn't feel great at that time, I will confess. So I felt like being in front of people and being wrong was okay. That kind of got reinforced over time in different forums. And so when I first spoke at a technical conference, which was AWS reInvent, I think most of you probably are aware of it. I did practice a lot in the professional setting. I had mentors who helped me as I was preparing. But then it went off really well. So there was positive reinforcement as I tried and learned. I had a lot of mentors who didn't let me give up. So I will say that also helped. So those are the two things I would say. I had mentors or people who kept encouraging me to go again, and I just didn't have a fear of being embarrassed or wrong because of that experience as a 12-year-old. Because the following year I did win the third prize. I didn't mind signing up again, but I got something for it. So I think that got reinforced early on in my life for me.
Shobana, that the digital entertainment magazine, they put the next picture next to you with Hedy Lamarr. Both you look like exactly like twin sisters. It's really impressive with the hairstyle and all those things.
Oh, you're
Congratulations.
being too kind. Thank you.
So, Juliet, you are from Beverly Hills, Hollywood. There's a lot of distractions, right, in Hollywood. People with a lot of other things are there. How did you, woman, with all the things that are available to you, you took this challenge and wanted to jump into technology, motivate yourself? That's not easy. That's given all the privileges she had. So that motivate yourself. What is motivated you to do this startup?
Yeah, of course. So I think that what motivated me the most was the experience of the pain point and also the universality of it. I saw other people that suffered just like me. And, they say that you can either be the doctor or be the patient. You either fix the problem or you keep complaining about it. And so, instead of going and getting my PhD, I just decided to go in technology. And, I figured that it was kind of giving back in a way because it was still helping my community and it wasn't coming from a place of I understand the numbers, there's lots of actors out there, I can make lots of money doing this. It was purely from the standpoint of all of us are suffering with the same thing and with the same process. The process is not going to change, and the pain point's not going to get any less painful. And so I figured, why not make something that not only will benefit myself but benefit everyone else? And so that's kind of how I got to this. And I did not grow up with people that were in technology. So it was not in my household. It was not being planted as a seed as I was growing up. It really just came out of, I think that technology is what will solve this. And, I will find the people along the way to be able to get it done.
Oh, congratulations. That is amazing. Ramesh is my son, by the way. Ramesh, tell me what is the neuroscience plays that shyness, not only that, and then music that gives you confidence to go public. What are the things that you do, Ramesh, that you are use a very neuro-linguistic language to you use usually? Tell me a little bit about that. How do you communicate? Communication is important when not only you come on camera, like this beautiful woman communicating beautifully well. So what is the process involved?
Yeah. So, I actually spoke about this in a book recently, but the thing about performing and music is, and I've always found this to be ironic. The very thing that a performer is scared of for their performance is the thing that people want to see, right? People want to see vulnerability. But as a performer, you're almost scared of being vulnerable because you feel like, what are they thinking about me? What if they're all judging me, or what if I sound weird here? What if they notice something I don't?
Mm.
But the reality is, when people are impressed to see someone have the courage to get up on stage, but they're also impressed to see someone have the courage to be human. And that's something that influences, your job on stage is to be relatable. It's not to be perfect. It's not to be exactly pristine. Even Beyonce has had, flaws in performances. Every artist has. And when you get past the illusion of what a flaw is in a performance, your focus is relatability. And so, that fear of vulnerability, I think that it's a nature versus nurture thing. As humans, as Juliet was mentioning before, we are somewhat programmed to have a fear. I mean, to want to have a sense of belonging, but also a fear of ostracization. And we also, from a nurture perspective, you know, the experiences that you have with the child as a child growing up and the interactions that you have, whether it's Pavlovian, like positive, negative, or even just experiences with how people perceive you in whatever way that you're self-conscious of. Those memories store deeply in what's called the amygdala, which is one of the emotional memory center. It's one of the emotional memory centers of the brain. There's a cingulate gyrus and others, but that one is where fear specifically is stored. So when you have a fearful memory, when you have a traumatic memory, those things get stored in that center. So anything that's related to that fear in the future, whether it's something that's very closely related or conceptually related, it's something that strikes that nervousness. So, for instance, as you were saying earlier, Dad, you and Mom had me in Easter speeches, piano recitals, choir, all of those things where I was up on stage performing, and I would mess up. I would have make these mistakes, and at the end of the day, you realize that nobody remembers that. No one's thinking about that deeply in the future, but you remember those things. And as a performer, as someone, like, it's your job to put in that time, those 10,000 hours, to realize that that's just part of it. Because if you do it a few times and then you have an experience where you're self-conscious of the performance after, you're it might make you scared to perform again. So part of it is pushing yourself past that point to realize, I have to work through that fear. And one of the things I've also noticed, and this also could be related to the brain's mechanism of overriding the amygdala or these emotional centers, is my best performances are the ones where I pretty much blacked out. You start performing and you get in a flow state and you kind of become conscious again, like, oh, the show's over. I'm done. Wow. So,
You know, you, so you brought up to biracial environment. You went to Carnatic music. You learned South Indian music. You did everything, all combined them together. So, what is that multi-ethnic race give you the confidence? What are the what are the advantages and disadvantages of that multi-racial background you have?
well, where should I start? No. Um, I think so. Honestly, the cons, if I would even consider that, is that it just took time to understand how that blend worked. Even from a musical perspective, I've been, especially for my next album that I'm working on now, I've been deeply studying Carnatic music, rhythms, ragas. The way that the music has been made historically, as well as Black music, and where the intersection is. And there, as many differences as there are, there's still a Venn diagram. And so, first of all, rhythm is a very integral part of both genres of music. Rhythm is a very integral part. And it's how we, have told stories throughout the history of our people on both sides. And so, um, the pros for me is just, realizing where those intersections are became super strengths for me. So, like, on both sides of my culture, we strongly believe in storytelling. We strongly believe in rhythm. We strongly believe in the richness of culture and the uniqueness of sound, especially from regional perspectives. West Coast hip hop is not supposed to sound like Southern hip hop. North Indian Hindustani ragas aren't supposed to sound like Carnatic ragas. There's that distinction that creates representation of the stories told within those regions. So, I would say, for my as far as how I've been perceiving my background in both of those aspects, it's been through the beauty of uniqueness, but with a convergent evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as a physicist, I see the commonness among all of it. That's what I see a big common thread among all races. All humanity is one. With the laws of physics, the Earth moves around the follows the laws of physics, not some certain culture or certain rules of dogmas. It follows the rules of the physics, laws of physics, laws of nature. So that's what I underlying thing for all of us. We are all from a different backgrounds, that we can communicate. That is the greatness about this camera, this kind of technology that Shobana is providing. That is a thing that is providing the content, like Juliet is providing, and then producing, listening to music. These are all a combination of really we are providing something. Juliet, I wanted to ask you, what is the the technology is a digital health equity, sorry, digital equity. It's a big challenge. I don't know. I don't want you to, if you are uncomfortable answering, but this is, there is a problem there. There is a bad, his mother is from South Carolina, in a small plantation town. So there is no internet at all. I mean, there is hardly any internet there. So there is no speed. They cannot see and all those things. So where is that equity comes in the picture? This kind of a technology to get the benefit of technology for all races, for all of them, for everybody, rural or urban areas, people.
Yeah, I think that where it will start to change people's lives is at the price point. Making it more financially sustainable for everyone to be able to have access to performance coaching, whether it is for public speeches or for job interviews, whatever it may be. Executive coaches and public speaking coaches are incredibly expensive, but also, they're not necessarily accessible within certain states or certain environments, certain neighborhoods. And then, of course, you are then also competing with someone's schedule. Having to schedule with a third party can become incredibly difficult, especially considering that real life circumstances come up and we have holidays and everyone, now believes in this work-life balance thing. And so I believe that, now people being able to utilize a tool that doesn't eat and doesn't sleep and doesn't judge and can come at a price point that is now more financially sustainable for everyone, considering the economy that we're in, will be able to really level the playing field for the vast majority of people that either can't get the education or can't get the training or can't get the coaching.
Thank you. Shobana, democratizing this kind of the equity for the technology, available to all of them. Google is advanced with so much, and they gave a lot of a common platform for people. How do you, what do you think of that new technologies that really help people like me and Juliet and everybody and other people, that people who wanted to express themselves, they have the vehicle. So tell us what the future you think that we available to the technology wise.
Absolutely. I think, I would say three key angles we should think about is first reach, which Juliet also alluded to, like all the 8+ billion people in the world, if they could access, to me, that is reach. And that means the network constraints that you're talking about, which is again, without going into too much geeky detail, what can your TV or other device do if it could not connect to the network? So, for example, Google TV, you completely disconnect your Wi-Fi. It will still load most of the things and display the screen and your screensaver and a lot of other things. So, being able to architect in a way that works for low network or lower broadband type regions is what is going to give the billion user reach, irrespective of rural versus city versus country, different countries, and so on. That's number one, I think, from a technology perspective, which to me, all futuristic products should be building for to be ready, because without global reach, there's not going to be any business in the future. I think everyone needs to internalize that. Um, the second element I would say is working, physical devices have a lot of other constraints, like what is the chip in the device? How much is the processing power? How much is the runtime memory? For example, if we just take the TV space, you walk into a Best Buy store, you see a wide range of prices of the same brand, right? Whether it's Hisense or TCL. The reason you see these brands most of the time is actually the memory or runtime memory. And the reason I mentioned that, again, I don't want to go into a lot of boring detail here, but the reason I mentioned that is we need to build software that can run on a wide range of devices. So it needs to work well on a low memory, low processing chip device and a high end. And that's the only way, again, to scale any technological products. This means your entertainment, your music or movie, your show, or even a speech has to play well on any device, whether it's your phone or your tablet or your laptop, on a wide range of capabilities. So that's number two. So device capabilities and constraints, which are very different, by the way. Mobile has like unlimited memory, TV is not power constrained. So anyone who's building technology needs to understand that and build for it. The third element We are all in the midst of a big revolution with LLMs and AI. I think we all hear about it only probably 5 to 10 times a day, irrespective of what we do for our day jobs. And I think it's going to give both a power and a responsibility. The power part is it gives you the ability to do so much that you did not think was possible even 3 years ago. By the way, I already use this in my day-to-day work, and it's already making a big difference, step function difference. And imagine how much consumers will see the difference. So, being able to responsibly lean into the concept of LLMs in an effective way to get your entertainment through. For example, if let's say that we are doing a song album, let's say Ramesh is doing an album, but he wants it to reach people of multiple languages. He wants to make sure that the message he is giving with his lyrics reach everyone with the right context for the culture and language. He doesn't have to spend the next 1 year generating all of it himself, but he will be the authority on saying if it got the context right. So that is a step function change in just a small day-to-day example. See, I see him taking notes. And that's how it's going to change fundamentally how artists even can be even more productive. But the essence of what they bring as their idea, their innovation is not lost. So that's the power part. And on the responsibility part, I think all of us probably can, it resonates. We are going to have devices in front of our kids and our family. And it's not only in personal space that we have it. We may have roommates, we may have people of different ages. We may be listening to something as we are driving a car with the windows down. And so I think both the technologists like Google or us need to also be cognizant and responsible, and people who are using the technology, and then a mix of regulations and law. All of this has to evolve for a responsible next generation evolution of the third piece of technology. So to summarize, it's reach through being ready for all kinds of networks and regions. The second is work on all wide range of devices with their constraints. And third is use emerging technology like LLM with the right power and responsibility balance.
Shobana, we need to hear people like you. You are highly socially conscionable, very woman, socially aware. So we need to hear. Sometimes these technologies also overshadow people, talented people like Juliet and then Ramesh. That it is a big challenge because there are a lot of charlatans, scammers, all kinds of people there. Technology allows these big noises to arrive. I think technology has the ability to find world really honest and really people that they really contribute to society. How do we advance that part? I think is that there is a technological thing. You think technology will do that? What is the things that you suggest for that kind of thing?
I think this is a very critical area for us. Whenever we are in the midst of step function technology evolution, we need to think through this. 10 or 15, 20 years ago, that was the mobile revolution, and then internet revolution 10 years before that, and we had these very same discussions, and so we need to do that. I think technologists themselves should think about how do I build responsibly. By the way, that's a core part of every product mantra at Google. So like privacy security, we have very tight practices on that, no matter what you're building. So I think that needs to be there just from the technologist point of view itself, right from the source. The second is I think we should look at our job as how do we empower stars like Juliet and artists like Ramesh, and not about how do we give alternatives to them. Because in my mind, by the way, I've learned Carnatic music, I have done recitals myself. Personally, this is my personal view now. It's impossible to replace the authenticity and power that your human brain gives on creativity. This is something I truly believe personally. So I think technology should be more of a how do we put more power in the hands of artists in a responsible way rather than providing alternate entertainment. I think that's how we look at it. That's how we look at it from Google TV's perspective. That's how I personally think about it as well.
Juliet, I'm so proud of you. You did tell you that with the journey, the bringing together, and tell us final words. That how do you reach you? Maybe Sobana can help you, or she can help. Or please connect with her. On the LinkedIn, I will connect with all of you. I think that I think guidance from the technology people, guidance from entertainment people, all of them can help. So what you're looking for? You need a technology help, probably financial, all of those things are you need all of those things, right? So they can reach you Skyvora.com, right? They can
Yeah,
reach
and
you.
also my email is just my first and last name at gmail.com. So you can
Yeah.
also reach me there as well. I always answer my emails and I'm very friendly. I don't bite via email. So you can reach me there too or on LinkedIn.
Ramesh, my son. So tell me, what is anything that you want to say to both of these women, extraordinary women? Yeah, you're complimenting. What do you think of? You learn from a woman, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I love the mission that both of you have engaged on for how to integrate technology without replacing the humanness. My whole, and especially with how the pendulum is always going to swing to the other side. I think now more than ever, people want to feel the humanness within the artist. But there's so much room around the music and the artist for AI and technology to assist with performance coaching and with optimization of connecting artists with the right people and the the right audience, with branding, with all the things that honestly artists kind of just don't want to focus on, and they want to just be able to just make the music and have the resources around to help get the music to where it needs to go in the right method. I've personally looked up, what is the Ramakazi brand, just to see what ChatGPT would say in a comprehensive summary. And it'll give good suggestions. And so I think that the future of entertainment, let alone music, does rely on technology, but it's not in the way that's going to replace creatives, because people are always going to want that human element, something relatable. AI can't imitate feeling, but I do think it's going to increase accessibility to the artist, for the artist to find their audience, especially with all the noise that's going on in just how many songs are released a day, how many artists are basically trying to get on. So I applaud both of you for the missions that you have basically dedicated yourselves to increase that.
Thank
You
you.
know, I'm truly honored to have all of you to on this discussion. It is truly entertaining, not only entertaining, educational, informative. You shed a great light on this. You're the model woman for the humanity, I think. Thank you so much for joining with us, the Juliet, and then Shobana and Ramesh. Thank you all joining for us. I'm going to play my son's music before I close this thing. You can see that. What do you think of it? A little bit. See.
Also, you should ask Gemini.
Yeah, Jumna, yeah. Jumna, yeah. Don't know, she's from Google, remember?
Yeah.
That's my niece from India and him from here, from Atlanta.
This is our first song, by the way.
This is cool.
I've been busy for a Bollywood bag. I do it for the city on my Robin Hood swag. With bands after bands formulating in my hands, nigga, I'ma be the man till I got a foot tag. Just another day in this life. It's like a movie with no cameras on my craziest nights. Cup of Henny over ice, call it gravy and rice. Now roll a kush up in the wood, blowing good till we beaming up to alien heights. Wearing coaches to the club like Punjabis. The birds trying to flock and we ain't eating in the lobby. We got the parking lot, pouring shots of Bacardi to the top. Yeah, we call it a masala block party.
Good night, all of you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
36 hella bottles in the mix.